Hey everyone, welcome to the Brent Burns edition of Scuttlepuck. We've got Anya Battaglino back to talk about the Team USA gold medal in women's hockey. We've also got Pete to talk about our team of the week, the Montreal Canadiens, and Dale's got another fascinating rat hole. And we'll get to that right after the Dropkick Murphys sing, "I'm Shipping Up to Boston." Hello, and welcome to episode 188, the Brent Burns edition of Scuttlepuck. And we've got, it's a big week. We've got Pete back. How's it going, Pete?
Very well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, we're always glad to have you. And also on the line, we've got Dale. What's going on, Dale?
Not a lot, Mike. Just another short week here, and since it seems like we just did this.
Yeah, I know, but you gotta, when you go late on one week, you gotta be able to do the rapid fire. But a heck of a lot has happened since we did our last episode, so it's probably a good thing anyway.
Yeah, so looking forward to it. So good to hear you, boys, Pete.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so we've got lots coming up on the show. We're going to do our milestones and who's hot and who's not and all that. And the Department of Player Safety even had some work this week. And we've got a real special guest returning to the show. We've got Anya Battaglino, and I'm really looking forward to having that conversation after Team USA's big gold medal win this week. But first, can we talk about the seats I had at the Leafs-Islanders game this week?
Let's make this about you.
Yes, it's all about me. No, so I got, what's that?
Yeah, but the Oilers weren't playing, so it's not the utopia. But
yeah, that's true. It was pretty cool when we Jen and I went to a game in November and fluked out and won through MasterCard, won seats to another Leafs game, and they said, between the benches, and we didn't know what it meant. So we go into the game and you get to go right down. You pick them up at executive will call, and then we walk it in talking to the ushers or whatever. And say, okay, so can you tell me where these are? And they go, oh, you've got those seats, and they're smiling. I'm going, what are they? No, you're gonna really like this. So anyway, they walk us down. And you know that box that Jamie McLennan or Ray Ferraro, the commentators between the benches, stands in?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were basically sitting in the back of that box with there's glass between us and Jamie McLennan and the benches, but we're right beside the players. It was really cool.
Yeah, that was. I told you said you were going, so I told the boys turn the game on so we could see it, and so we turned it on. I said, look for Mike and Jen. And they went in and panned in on Noodles there doing a thing, and you are behind him. Your head is as big as his, and you're taking a selfie. You're doing some pictures, and I'm like, oh, I guess we found him.
Yeah, it was, and we didn't even know we were on there, right? But it was I'm getting texts from a guy I used to work with, Mike, you're on TV right now, and then I got a couple of emails. It was hilarious, but
don't pick your nose, whatever you do.
It's funny. I said I said exactly that to Jen. I guess we got to be careful here.
Yeah, you couldn't watch that game and not see your face.
It was hilarious, but it was really cool. I mean, you couldn't see the game really, it was almost impossible to watch the play, but it was fascinating just to watch the interaction between the players and guys coming off, and a few really cool things. First of all, Johnny Boychuk for the Islanders he's clearly the joker on the team, and he would come off the ice and he'd always have a comment for Noodles McLennan there, or even for whoever was sitting on the end of the Leafs bench, and it wasn't a nasty game at all, so they weren't mad at each other, but he was just making, you could tell, just little quips and stuff. I couldn't hear it because of the glass, but you could just see he's always smiling and making some joke, and that was pretty cool. And one thing we saw, which I thought was really awesome, the guys, when they get a dull skate blade or something, right? You've seen them in the past, they take their skate off and they run back and they sharpen it up. Well, the trainers got this really cool kit bag all organized with numbers, and it's just replacement blades for every player. So guy comes off, he just whips out the other blade, snaps this one in, and off he goes. It was really cool.
Yeah, those pictures you had were pretty cool. And this is coming off you being in the Jumbotron in the Pittsburgh
I know.
arena.
Well, they know
Like,
who they need to get on TV, man. They're,
I know. And then, but you couldn't make the trifecta. You couldn't get on the B-Sense screen last night.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm kind of. They wanted to, but I said no. You guys, you got to earn it, guys. That's how it goes. Actually, one other cool thing I did see was one time, Cal Clutterbuck obviously made a missed assignment in his own zone, and he's skating to the bench. Doug Waite and Kelly Buchberger come over. Buchberger's got the iPad, and they go, "Hey, Cal," and he shows him right there the play that just happened on the ice, and I was standing right behind him. I got a picture of it. It's really cool. And he's just going over, okay, whatever missed assignment it was, and he nods, he pats him on the shoulder. Okay. But that's how quick the information is now, right? He was skating to the bench, and they already had it up and wanted to show it to him. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah. Cool.
Technology.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that was
all
big.
right.
So 3 games in 1 week for me. So that's an epic NHL week. But
that is hard
I
to.
want to be like Mike.
We all do.
Hashtag.
it's you can aspire, Pete. I think it's really good to have high goals. So
It is.
important.
It definitely is.
But moving on, we got to get Dale. We got some milestones to hit this week. Did you?
Yes. Well, I just did my quick little search there. So probably the big one, Peke Rene got his 300th win this week, and he's also closing in on 50 shutouts. He's at 48 or something like that.
Ooh, well, can we talk about that for just 1 second? Why is a win a stat for a goaltender? Isn't that a team stat?
Yeah, you could make that. Would we have? Okay, so no win stats for goalies in our new league.
Yeah, why doesn't Sidney Crosby have wins as part of his stats?
It's a good point, Mike.
I want to be
Let's
like
move on.
Mike.
Okay, so
Let's
the
move on.
idea of the show is it's a podcast, so we talk about things, right? It's like you guys can say something.
Yeah, I guess I've never actually really thought about that. I guess it's a historical thing.
I'd like to make you think. That's what I do.
So what would be the most telling stat for a goalie?
I think
Just
it's got to be
save
save
percentage?
percentage is the biggest, I think, yeah.
Okay, and then you'd have to also base that on number of shots, and then you'd have to qualify that with like quality of shots.
Ooh, the old quality of shot debate,
Right?
whether that exists. Yeah, that could be and they do have that. They have high danger scoring chance save percentage and medium danger save percentage. But I mean, when you're talking career stuff, I think save percentage. It's a milestone. I get it, but I've always hated because that's Marty Brodeur's like claim to fame. He's got 10 billion wins, right? It's like, well, yeah, he played on a great team. Who cares? And it's a team stat. So anyway, sorry to get off. And now you're mad at me, so let's just move on.
I don't get mad.
I get even.
Yeah.
So milestones achieved. Jeff Skinner, 200 goals, and
Ooh, nice. Good for Jeff
that was
Skinner.
achieved. And the two that are coming up are Ovi is chasing 600 goals, and I had to throw this one in. Josh Bailey should hit 700 games this week. He's got 698, and just kind of incidentally bring his name up, signing his big contract for $6 million for 5 years, $5 million a year for 6 years.
Yeah, good for him. That's outstanding.
So,
and I was literally sitting right beside him the other night.
Yeah, so it was good to see that. But then you guys thinking, right? So they're planning on him being there for 6 more years, which is why they would have signed him to a 6-year contract, right?
Yep.
So he's already got 700 games in the NHL. So if they're planning on being there for another 6 times 80 number of games, he'll have he'll be a fairly impressive games played mark.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. And it's good for Josh Bailey. Get what you can when you can, but it's a bad contract for the Islanders to sign. Like the guy's 28. They've had his prime years already, and he's having a out of body experience kind of year. He's at 1 point per game when his career average is 0.53. So he's like basically double his career average. Good for you in your contract year, but 2 years from, like, he's not going to have that next year. Like 2 years from now, they're going to be going, "Ooh, this is a $5 million contract, and it's going to be tough to move. They're going to eat salary." It's just, it doesn't, like, again, like I say, as far as the players go, get what you can when you can, but from a general manager perspective, that's a bad signing.
Yeah, I mean, they're just. I really hit home when they say how many more games they expect him to play.
Yeah, like he's going to be 1,000-game player in their minds. Yeah. And but
anyway,
and you know what? Those are the guys that GMs always pay too much for and regret later. Like, it's those not your, like, he's playing like a first line player, but I don't think he's a career first line player.
So here's the big question: is it that how key is this to the Tavares contract? Is it good? How much of an impact is that? Do you think?
Do you think Tavares, like, that helps keep him in because he likes Bailey that much? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Does he like Bailey? If he does like Bailey, then they do this, saying, "Hey, come on, John. What else do you want? We're going to do it. We're going to do all these other little things to make it show you."
It's obviously a move in that direction, right? But I mean, ultimately, it's on John Tavares to figure out whether he wants to play with Josh Bailey or whether that's enough to keep him there. In my mind, probably not. If John Tavares is smart enough, he's going to sit back, take a look at what's around him, and go, is this enough to be competing in the next year or two, maybe 3, or do I look elsewhere who's got a team that's building and I can play with a winner either this year or in the coming years, which I'd like to do. It all depends on how he views it. And also, I mean, I remember having this discussion with Mike a few years ago when we talked about the Carolina Hurricanes, and it was about the Stahl brothers. And the Stahl brothers seem to always take discounts, always want to be in Carolina, and they'd go past the trade deadline into the summer, and then all of a sudden they'd sign right back with Carolina. So is New York or New Jersey or wherever he's situated on Long Island, is he happy there? And is he happy there to be with his family growing? And how much is winning really a part of his thought process?
Yeah, I mean, I got to assume that's everything, but it's a great point. Like, you wonder how much influence he would have on a signing like that. Does he get in there and say, "You get Bailey signed," and or does he just stay out of it and worry about himself?
Yeah, because I think that is one of the factors. Because Josh Bailey on his own, that is a big contract. Anyway, good for him.
Speaking of other milestones, though, did you hear I don't think we caught this, but I saw NHLPA said that Malkin got 900 points last weekend while we were, and I was like, it certainly couldn't have happened in Pittsburgh because they didn't make any big deal about it, but he must have done that must have happened in Columbus.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I just disregarded it.
Yeah, that's, it used to. And Eric Stahl got 900 points too, but. Yeah. I didn't want to show you up on your segment, so I can't
talk about everybody. I just picked the highlights.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm just looking at Hockey Reference. It says Malkin's at 908, so he couldn't have got it last weekend. Although I think he did get like 4 points, but it must have been It must have been before the weekend. That's probably why. So it's old news. That's why you didn't get it.
Old news. That's why it's gone.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to who's hot and who is not. And this makes me want to puke because in the East, we've got Philadelphia is really the hottest team, Dale, at 9-0-1. Really doing
Who's second?
well.
Who's right behind them?
Yeah, well, we don't have to talk about second, because there's a lot to go through. But Toronto might be 9-1 in their last 10. I don't know.
And they won when you were there, didn't they?
They did. They got horseshoes up their ass, that team.
They won last night without Matthews.
Yeah, they're 1 point ahead of the Bruins, but the Bruins have 5 games in hand. It's amazing that they can get 5 games. They've played more games than any other team in the league. That's just, so that they can get the Toronto fans, keep them engaged, right? It looks like they're doing better than they really are. It's all a conspiracy, clearly. Because Rogers has got their fingers in there, right? They're giving all that money. You buying it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not buying it at all.
And in the West, Vegas and Winnipeg are both 7-3-0. It's friggin' Vegas just keeps rolling. I keep waiting. I still think they're going to fall off. They're not this good, but man, when you get on a roll in Vegas, times are good.
Yeah, I just keep thinking Vegas. It's going to make a lot of general managers now think this whole prospect concept. Like, forget it. Let's just go and get tried and true 2-year, 3-year players. Just start picking them up. Give up prospects for known entities, and put them together.
Oh yeah, sure, 2-3, and make sure they all exceed their career shooting percentages by 4 or 5%. I mean, it's that simple.
That's right. That's the other part of it.
Get William Karlsson shooting at 25%. I mean, it's easy. I don't know why it's so hard to put a team together.
Nobody's talked about this. Okay.
Oh.
They're in the gambling capital of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, Monaco might be up there too. But these guys go in there, they're playing their games and whatnot, and like their home record is something like off the charts. So could it be that we could be having a Black Sox scandal? If we dug into it, every team going in there, how many of them are actually being paid up?
Oh, so you're not saying
right.
the Vegas flu, where teams are just going in and getting hammered and gambling all night and then being. You're saying that the bookies are making tons of money on them and it's all fixed.
Well, you're right.
Somewhere in there.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
It is.
Hey, you've got zero evidence for that, but hey, they're doing well.
I'm just throwing it out there, spitballing.
Yeah.
Nobody else has got an answer for it. So
yeah, when Luigi shows up at the door, Pete, you don't know me.
I want to be like Mike. #
Yeah. Okay. Moving right along. Who's not hot right now? Continuing the trend, the New York Rangers again are 2-8-0, so really maintaining a crappy record, and I think happy to do so. And we'll get to it. But they've started to offload. The blow up has begun. And in the West, the Vancouver Canucks are 2-7-1. And I have to think they are happy to be blowing it up at this point.
Yeah.
But they just signed their Jim Benning, right?
Oh, yeah, 3 more years, baby.
So it'll be interesting.
Interesting is right, yeah. Yeah, they're going to regret that, I think. But they got lucky with Brock Besser, and now they're going to they think they're going to rebuild quickly, but I don't have any confidence in that, in their ability to rebuild that organization quickly.
Yeah, but all scuttlepuckers have to look back is in September when we did our prognostications and look at our results about, it may turn out to be gold for Vancouver for all we know, because our stats this year just suck.
What are you talking about?
I don't know where that was going.
Well, you look at when we did our prognostication for who's going to be in the Stanley Cup final, who's going to be, I believe you had Chicago somewhere up there, and I think that the Oilers were somewhere. I even picked them in the final.
Did one of you guys have Vancouver?
I think I had the Habs and whatnot, but so we're predicting about what would happen during the season. And then we're taking a look at Jim Benning and going, I think, my track record's awful, but I think that it's going to be a train wreck for Vancouver keeping him on like that. But look at my track record from September saying that, the Montreal Canadiens would finish second and that the Edmonton Oilers would be in the Stanley Cup final. And so I'll just shut up now.
No, you had Montreal in 5th in the Atlantic. You had Vancouver in 8th, and so did I. So we were pretty good there.
I still had Edmonton in the final.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's you.
Where'd you have Chicago?
I might have had them in the final. You're right. I may have.
Okay. So,
but
all right, let's talk about today. Did the Rangers get better today?
We're talking trades now. We're jumping to trades.
Oh, we're talking about the Rangers, weren't we? And Boston. Oh, Boston being hot. Sorry, Boston being hot. Did
No,
Boston
we didn't talk
get
about
better?
Boston. No, we talked about the Rangers. We're a 2-8-0. They suck, and they have
And-
started to blow it up. We could jump there, and we can do that.
Or- But you also said that Boston was hot too, right? So
No, I did not. Philadelphia's
did you?
9-0-1, and Toronto's
Oh, okay.
9-1-0. Come on, Dale, stay
All
with
right.
me here.
all right, let's go.
We're all over the map. But if we want to jump to that, let's do it. We'll
Yep.
get to the Department of Player Safety later. But big breaking news, Scuttlepuck here. We're breaking the news. We should have breaking news, all the sound effects.
Get the producer on
New
that.
York Rangers send Rick Nash to the Boston Bruins and retain 50% of his salary. You ready? Get your pens out because this is a long list. Ryan Spooner, Ryan Lindgren, Matt Bolesky, a 2018 first-round pick, and a 2019 seventh-round pick. Wow.
Yes, the
So-
Rangers got better.
Well, long-term for sure, yeah. I mean, Nash is, he's not a good player, but so all in all, salary-wise, the Rangers picked up lost $200,000 in salary because they retained 50% of, Boston retained 50% of Bolesky, and the Rangers retained 50% of Nash. So the dollars are no big deal, but Spooner's a good player. Ryan Lindgren, I don't know. I'd have to look him up because this just happened, folks. This is breaking. So you guys talking? I'll look up Ryan. I'll look up Lindgren here. Sorry.
Well, we have a Lindgren.
And Bolesky was not playing in Boston, had never really caught on there, so that'll be a new chance for him. He should still have a little bit of life left, a little gas in the tank. So we got to. He's not that old. He hasn't played that much really.
He hasn't played that well either.
True, but he's
Tough
got
tough lineup to crack in Boston too. He's a
Mhm.
he's a feisty guy.
feisty
All right.
guy. Married a good Belleville girl.
Yeah, he played for the Bulls, and my wife taught him. So I mean, he's still got a ton left to give.
So
Everything she taught him.
and of course, like I mentioned before, every trade you have when you throw in picks, that just keeps that. You can't decide whether it's a win or a lose on the face value because you don't know how these are going to turn out. So a first round pick, I don't know what actual pick that is, but that's good. But the key to this whole deal, that seventh round pick in 2019. That's going to tilt the scales.
Yep, that definitely tilts the scales.
But you know what? If you thought it was a fourth round, what would you say?
I'd say it's the same.
Yeah.
Anything after second to me is really not.
Yeah, I agree. So I mean, that's what I think too. If you have a third round pick, I'd trade it for a fifth and a sixth if someone would give it to me, right? Like, and although I don't think they've all got draft boards that they rate what a first, second, third, fourth, fifth round pick is worth, and they've gone through and done all the data. So all the teams, you see now, it's pretty cookie cutter because they all have some form of that, and none of them are that different.
But the other big thing is like a first round pick. There's a big difference between 4th and 30th, right? So
massive, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes that's a little bit misleading too. So
okay, so Ryan Lindgren, not a Swede like you might have thought with that last name, but he's from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Shocking, an American hockey player from Minneapolis. Left shooting defenseman. 2016 second rounder. He played in the World Junior. He medaled for the United States in the World Junior under 20, under 18.
I believe he's Charlie Lindgren's brother.
Is he? There you go.
Charlie Lindgren's the goaltender in Laval for Montreal, the Laval Rockets goaltender.
Yeah, who we watched play last night, actually. Stinking hate that team. I hate Michael McCarron. I told you that before, and I still he's oh man, he must frustrate that organization because he's this monster guy, and you can just see he just doesn't have it in him. He's got he's just he's going to be a AHL player. But so that's a solid prospect that the Rangers got back there, I would say. That's a good haul for them, wouldn't you say?
I think the Rangers look to be ahead on this one.
If you're rebuilding like they are and they want to do it quickly, that's intriguing. Ryan Spooner.
Yeah.
Sorry?
What about just the players? Take away the picks, just the players. Would you have done it? Bolesky, Spooner, and Lindgren for Nash? Straight up?
Spooner and Lindgren.
The money is
Oh
almost.
yeah,
Yeah,
a first round pick. Jeez.
I know the first round is the bonus. I think you do it just for the players.
And I don't. That seventh round pick, the odds of him odds are against him playing 100 games in the NHL, but you still need depth in your organization. So for your AHL team, it's important to have those players, and that's where you see in some of these other trades, you see players like basically they're going to be career AHL players going back and forth. But it does matter if you have depth in your organization, right? So it's it's worth something. Let's put it that way. And that they had to. So I guess the big thing is they kept 50% of Nash's salary, so the Bruins had to give, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's wow. So I was just looking at the Bruins. So they're down to 5 picks in this year's draft that they have left. No first rounder. They have Florida's third rounder and no fifth rounder. Wow, they're going for it this year. I bet you at the beginning of the year they wouldn't have thought they'd have been in this position to,
right?
Because they weren't looking good. But now's a good time to go to the interview with Anya Battaglino, which we've recorded separately. So we'll put that in, and we'll catch up with you guys on the other side, and we'll get into the Department of Player Safety and all that good stuff. So here's our fantastic interview with Anya Battaglino. And with us on the line, very excited to have back onto Scuttle Puck, Anya Battaglino of the Connecticut Whale and director of the NWHL Players Association. How are we today, Anya?
Guys, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. I love talking hockey, so always happy to be on Scuttle Puck with my favorite guys.
Oh, favorite guys! Wow.
Flattery will get you everywhere with us.
That's what I thought.
Obviously exciting times in the world of women's hockey, especially in the United States. I have to assume you were watching the big gold medal game. Tell us what it was like for you personally to watch it, and then what's it mean for, I guess, women's hockey in general and in particular in the United States.
Well, specifically for me, it was work the next day, a crazy long day, up all night. Then I was so excited that I couldn't go back to sleep, so I was wired. So first and foremost, it was insane. But when I was watching it, the confidence that they had, the ability that they had to move the puck, the places they were going and taking the sport little by little each shift. I mean, I was near tears just watching the game because of the momentum we had, because of the history, because of the players that were there and how hard they've worked. I've trained with and against those players for, almost 6 years now. So it's been kind of this emotional journey for all of us, watching them go to Sochi and then getting snuffed with the silver and then watching them take the gold. It was honestly an experience that I can't explain.
That's cool. And it was, I was watching the game and it was such good hockey. Like obviously being Canadians, we were cheering for Canada, but the level of hockey was incredible and it was so intense and just a fantastic game. Kind of a shame it has to end in a shootout, but to be honest, through the overtime, the Americans were really pouring it on. I think if it had kept going, they probably would have won anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of my thinking. It's a bummer. Sorry I cut you off there, Dale, but yeah, that's just hard way to lose. But like I said, I think if the game kept going, or like you said, I think if the game kept going, U.S. had the edge there at the end.
Oh, and if you're going to win in a shootout, that's the way to do it. The last goal.
Seriously.
Well,
we're all shaken after Melo's goal, the same type of goal. We're like, oh my gosh, that's like a punishing goal. And then Joss goes up and does the exact same thing. You have to think to yourself, oh my gosh, like what is going on?
Yeah.
And like Shannon, that move was ridiculous. It's against Shannon Sabados, who's probably one of the best women goaltenders in the world. She plays in men's professional hockey, and she just looked like me when I'm playing old timers net. Like she just that move was just ridiculous.
Oh, I know. It caught her off guard, and she got on her heels, and then she went back. I mean, and you know what? She almost stretched her arm out to get it. So it's just a huge testament to her. She was unbelievable all game, and to kind of watch it go down like that, you think, oh. But if you had watched the whole game, saw her body of work, like you said, she's outstanding. And
yeah.
You have to tip your hat to Maddie Rooney. That was an unbelievable experience for her as a rookie, as a young gun, and she wasn't too bad either.
Can we talk about her for a second? Because I was amazed. She's 20. She's in, you could argue, the most difficult position in sport in terms of stress and the mental anguish goalies go through. And then in the most difficult position in a shootout, in a gold medal game, as big a stage as you could possibly have. And before the shootout, she's over at the bench just smiling and seeming to be like enjoying it all. And after each save, she's looking at the bench just smiling, like happy to be here. I couldn't get over it.
I know. What kind of player does that, right? Like, what kind of player smiles through what could be the most intense period of their entire life? And she plays at UMD, and she's a powerhouse there, and everyone that knows her loves her, and she's just such a great person. Or what I've heard, I don't know her personally, but to watch her kind of smile through that situation just shows you how confident she was in her team. What a cohesive unit it was, and that's not something we've seen from the U.S. in a really long time. I felt like every single one of them, the rookies were carrying the play for a long time, and watching that whole experience, or watching that whole kind of connectivity between the rookies and, the legendary players or the legacy players, and then watching her just huge smile on her face, know she's ready to rise to the occasion. It was like sending chills up your spine.
Yeah, no, going back, that's an interesting comment, I guess, because if you go back a year ago, going into the World Championships being held in the United States, the women's team were very close to a boycott. We're very united, not just the team, but all the other women hockey players that, USA Hockey needed to treat them better, and almost boycotted. And now, do you think that had any effect in galvanizing the team going into the Olympics? I mean, I got to think this gold medal is a heck of a payoff and for that group of girls who made a pretty brave stance a year ago.
Yeah, I think that you're hitting the nail right on the head. That unified them in a way that nobody could explain, right? Working together for one goal, whether it was for equitable pay or for the growth and development of the youth game, for all of these different things that they're fighting for. And then, the icing on the cake of getting that gold medal, I mean, that was, the culmination of history coming to a point. It was the definition of their struggle, their hard work, their, basically all the sacrifices that they made and almost made at the end there, basically coming to fruition. So, we're so proud of them, every single one of us that said no, that said, these players deserve these certain rights, and standing behind our friends and teammates. I think that was, watching them come back home with the gold was even more impactful, just because of the hardship and the strife that they had to get the respect that they so clearly deserve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think that's excellent. So if we can, we've got some other women's hockey going on in the NWHL, and I know you're wrapping up the regular season here shortly with the playoffs coming up. So how's the season gone so far? I know you're, I believe, in third place right now, going into the playoffs here shortly.
Yep. So we've had two teams obviously shake out to be pretty dominant this year, which would be the Buttes and the Riveters. But every single game, and what's funny is we might not have the record to say, oh, we're the winning most team, but every single game for us is a % better, is a % closer, is a hard fought game, is, either a shootout or a 1 or 2 goal game. I mean, the season is so equally matched, and the teams are so equally matched that it's really on an any given Sunday basis with any certain team, So I think this year kind of proves the point that the quality on the ice is still extremely high without our Olympians. Where the talent is shaking off is not so dominantly one area. I think it's a really, really strong year. And I think it's going to be a really close playoff series, because there is no one team that, I think is completely standalone better than any other. I think that, a lot of teams have learned and grown and changed. And I think that at the end here, whether, it's an upset win or the first team winning the whole thing, I don't think it's going to be an easy game for any of the championship series.
Cool. Dale, you got anything? Because I got a whole list of things I want to ask, but I don't want to, cut you out entirely.
Well, that's all right. I'm a good listener.
It's not what Teresa says.
I was actually, my comments are more back to the Olympics, so I don't know whether I want to go back there. But I mean, I know for a long time people have viewed the Olympics, women's hockey in the Olympics, as a two-horse race. I think history would support that theory. But I mean, I know you got into currently there's 2 pools of 4 teams. When do you envision that growing to even, let's say, to match the number of teams that are in the men's side?
I hope it's soon, because what we do is, for the women's side, we have basically a challenger series before the games a year prior that says, is your team going to make it or not? And when you look at some of those games, the compete level is so high. And now you have teams like China pouring in all of these resources, knowing that this game is growing on the highest level and really developing a strong powerhouse. So I would say maybe the next 2 games or the next 3 games, you'll find it really expands there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be great just to let you know, I've used your quote several times over the last couple of months that, the rising tide lifts all ships.
Absolutely. I mean, as we develop the game in the U.S. and as our players get better, for a perfect example, our players get better, our organizations get better, the CWHL gets stronger as well. Players from the U.S. team that get edged off this Olympic series end up playing in the CWHL for the Chinese growth and development team. So it's like, isn't that the culmination of what we're talking about? Is, players play in our league, they play in their league, they play in China, they're growing the game on all these different platforms. So, Finland had a great opportunity this year. Sweden had a great opportunity this year. I think that none of the games were walkover wins. OAR played great with all of the hardship that they've encountered. So, I think that should expand soon. And I think that the reason being is players are playing all over the world and making each other better. I've never gotten better, or I've never gotten worse playing with better players.
Right.
So I think that you're dead on with that.
Nice. Now,
cool.
I wanted to ask, since we last talked, Anya, the Terry Pegula got involved and bought the Buffalo Buttes. And when I heard that, I thought that is the best thing that could happen to the league, or it's an outstanding thing for the league, right? Because he clearly, obviously, he's got deep pockets, but he's shown through either funding Penn State and building that beautiful arena, or buying the Buffalo Sabres and just spending what it took and building. They've got a beautiful facility there. He wants to see everything he gets involved in be done first class. So what's that been like? What effect has Terry Pegula and his family had on the Buttes, obviously, but the NWHL generally?
So the Pegulas are interesting. He and Kim they just love Buffalo, and they love the growth and development of the city, of women's sports, of equitable treatment of their athletes and of their whole city. And I think that what they're doing, and grabbing that whole region like a bull with the horns, just taking it on, making it better, pouring in the resources that it so rightfully deserves, and really putting Buffalo back on the map is huge, right? They bought a winning franchise. So, that's always something that we point to and be like, well, they made a good decision there. But looking at what they're doing for Buffalo and what they've done for us and what they've done for those players, they've really just became the standalone, people that we look to say, hey, this is who sees the value in us. And they're pretty smart people, and they've got a lot of good decisions going on, and they've got a lot of good, movement towards equitable treatment. I mean, that's really all I can say is they've taken on the responsibility of making Buffalo better than it was. And I think that they've done that. And I think that by acquiring our Buffalo Buttes franchise, they've shown that we are marketable, we're worth an investment, and that our players are worth the same and, similar treatments.
That's awesome.
So you said buying an existing. So when is the next person to introduce a new franchise?
Well, that's something that I would love to see. I think that's a conversation that we've had in a couple of different markets is, do we go to the ideology of building the team internally, selling it off, or do we go from the ideology of purchasing the rights to a team and then you have the responsibility to grow and develop your own? It's an interesting back and forth on what the best solution or idea would be, but I'm excited to see what the next season brings us for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, okay. So I want to touch on something else, but this just made me think of, and I had a crazy idea, but because Anya, you've helped us out a bunch, I'm going to let you run with it, okay? But it's, I was thinking though, and Dale and I were talking about, we've got this thing called the Scuttle Puck Hockey League that when we come up with crazy ideas to change the game, we say, okay, well, that'll happen in the Scuttle Puck Hockey League. But one thing we were talking about was, what if the league was like crowdfunded? Like if you were the team, and I don't know all the deals, how it would work, but if the team was, you said, okay, you're whatever level of funding, you gave $1,000, so you get a ticket or you get jerseys and all this stuff, and hey, you spend enough, you get to vote on trades or something like that. But I think there's something there where, like, because it's so hard, I would imagine, for the NWHL to do it purely to generate revenue purely on ticket sales, obviously, and then sponsorships can be tough, but there's a lot of people across the United States and across Canada who probably would say, yeah, I'd give $20, $50, $100 to help the league or help a certain team that they were fans of. Anyway, it's a concept that's there that obviously is much more complicated than just throwing the idea out. But it seems like this would be the kind of league that could do something like that to really bring the fans in even closer.
Yeah, so before you answer, if you think it's a great idea, it was ours. And if you think it's dumb, it was just Mike's.
Well, you know what's funny is before I took the reins as the PA director, we kicked that idea around a little bit to make up the discrepancy in the pay when our salaries were cut.
Yep.
And okay, well, what if we go to a crowd-funded model for just the PA, just for the players, and say, oh, well, kind of make up our gap by donating. We'll do something. We'll do this. We'll do that. And you know what we got to is how innovative that would be, yes, but how does that compare to the men's game, and what level of kind of, maybe not respect, but you know what I mean? Like, what level of professionalism do we have if we're basically saying, we're a charitable donation, donate to us, we want to play. So we've kind of taken the stance on it, like, that would be sick and fun to kind of manage all of that and have the crowdfunded aspect of it, and get that competition going. Well, I raised this much, or I donated this much, so I get this much of a say. But then we walk away from it saying, well, is that how the NHL works? That's what we're trying to model ourselves off of, and we're trying to be the women's version of that. And knowing that that none of those franchises would be like, oh, that's how we want to operate. We take the stance of, it should be easier to get sponsors is the answer that I would give you, right? I'm like, why is it so hard? We are the best in what we do, and we've proved it, and the Olympians have proved it to the point of, we got a bunch of flack when they chose to step away from the CWHL and move to this new league and innovate and grow with us, and then they won a gold medal. And it's not completely us, but it's also definitely not us, right? So there's so many different sides of it. I think it's an interesting idea.
Well, I'll tell you what, when we start the Scuttle Puck Hockey League, we'll have the Scuttle Puck Women's Hockey League too, and it's going to be fully crowdfunded, all right?
I like it.
But we're going to hire you away to be the commissioner, right? We'll pay whatever it takes, because we'll crowdfund it, and we'll get top dollar.
We'll fund it. Oh, yeah, we'll have to fund it.
Someone gets to choose my T-shirt. Someone gets to choose my shoes.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, and on more important things now, Dale and I just went on a family trip. We toured down to Pittsburgh, but on the way, we went to the Anchor Bar, and I got to know, when you go to Buffalo to pay the Buttes, do you guys stop at the Anchor Bar?
Okay, we don't, because we don't usually get to go there for long enough times. Oh. And you know what we do, though? We don't have Wegmans over by us, not even close. So, the whole bus is like, well, we're going to Wegmans, and we spend at least 45 minutes, like, running loose around Wegmans like psychopaths. So that's where we're like, okay, if we're going to Buffalo, we're going to Wegmans.
Okay, so you're differentiating yourself from the NHL right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
So you're taking buses everywhere. Give me some good bus stories.
Well, there's a couple, but most importantly, we try to figure out who can shove themselves up into the upper compartments. On our roster, the best fit up in the upper compartments is Megan Mertes. So that's obvious. The second the bus starts going, we're like, Mego, get up there. So we shove her up in the top of the bus, and we get her like sitting up in the stow and go cabin section. So that's one of the good ones. And obviously, like, when it comes to the bus, it's just who falls asleep first and how badly can you razz them? What do you have? What can you stack on top of their head? you know, whose stuff can you like take and hide? It's like, all right, so we're stacking cell phones on someone's head, and someone's phone rings, and they all fall over, and someone's got like a broken nose now, and so all that stuff happens on the bus, and we get so bored.
Oh, we lost you. Are you still there?
Oh, sorry.
That's
sorry.
okay.
Yep.
You're in a Dunkin' Donuts, aren't you?
Well, I'm waiting for my coffee, obviously.
Yeah.
We get so bored that we have to start to like have a good time, and then obviously on the bus ride home, if it's a big win, especially on the road home from Buffalo, you know, we've got maybe some cold ones going, and we're screaming our lungs off and singing. We had this whole competition last season that we would get in teams, pick a word, and then try to sing songs that had that word in it. Because we had like it was like the weirdest experience. Like, what are we? I was like, we're all awful singers. I'm like sitting there playing this game, like sweating. I'm so competitive. I'm like, we are the worst singers in the history of America. Why are we playing this game? Yeah.
Just like my days in minor hockey. I love it.
Yeah.
So I know you have a male coach. How many male members of your staff and your team would travel on the bus?
We have our head coach, Ryan, and then we usually have our team manager, Dan, and then some support staff. Our Paul is our trainer. He's obviously a male. He travels with us. And then there's usually a couple others, sometimes a photographer too. But for the most part, our support staff outside of our assistant coach are all males, except Beth. She's our she runs our team. So maybe Beth and Sarah, but for the most part, a bunch of males.
Yeah, I was just saying when those kind of roles will be filled by females. Yeah.
You know what? It's funny because this is the first season of the league that we have all male head coaches. And it's challenging because as women innovate in the NCAAs and in the collegiate hockey world, you know, a lot of those good quality female coaches are actually playing in our league. So it's yeah. So we have like, you know, that discrepancy where, okay, well, now that we have an established female coach, how do we get her either, you know, salary wise to make it make sense, or geographically, or things like that. So because it's one of those things where it's, you know, nights and weekends, it doesn't work with somebody that coaches for their full-time job. So it would have to be somebody that was a quality female coach that stepped away from coaching on the collegiate side to then work a regular day job and then work for us. So it's such a challenge. And the coaches that we were able to procure are great. And each team has some level of female leadership. And I think that that's hugely important. But like you said, I think that the more we can grow and the more, you know, honestly, liquid that comes through, cash is king. If you can start, you know, getting people involved that coach at that high level, you know, we hope to do that.
Yeah. So you need the female version of player coach Reg Dunlop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh God, no! Set the bar a little higher.
But I did want to ask as well, because I know the last time we talked, the New Jersey Devils had just signed a marketing agreement, I guess, with the Metro Riveters. So maybe you can tell us a little bit how has that gone? How significant has that proved to be for the team and for the league?
You know, watching them get behind us, and whether it's just social or whether it's pushing our picture during their game or getting our players to their games, to meet their fans, it's been great. You know, Buffalo is obviously setting the gold standard, but if I was going to say somebody was right along neck and neck, I would say it was the Devils. They're giving us credit. They're you know, getting behind our successes. They're, you know, tweeting about us. Their fans are getting interested. We've had such a huge uptick in exposure and tickets and all these different things because an organization is just willing to give us non-monetary resources. You know, if we have companies and teams align with what our goals are, you know, it's not, hey, give us $10 billion and you get nothing out of it. It's like, just believe in us, right? Believe in what we're doing, talk about what we're doing, educate your fans, because they're hockey fans. We're not talking about some crazy tangential experience. We're talking about hockey, the same thing, you know? So it's been great. It's been amazing to watch them, you know, stand with us and say, great game, Riveters, or look at this goal or something to that effect. But, we're proud to say that they work with us, and we've seen a lot of exposure from them, and it's hugely successful for our metropolitan team.
Let's go. Now, I know you've played, I think you've played a couple of games in Pittsburgh. It seems to me like they've really supported the league. When are we going to see a franchise in Pittsburgh?
I think that's a good question. I love the Penguins. I think we have a really fun time every time we go there. We play with their Pens Elite team. We'll go out with their kids beforehand and do a little clinic, and then we'll work with them and hang out. And, I love going there because their food is bomb. So, I'm over there like talking to the chefs, like, you guys are the best I've never eaten food like this. And they're like, what? Get away from us, you weirdo.
Sounds like a true hockey player, though.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm starving. What's up, guys? They're like, don't you have a game? So, but I laugh. Their whole support staff from the Penguins they're awesome. They really are. They love what we do. They love to have us there. Their fans come in crowds to see us. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was a market that we're heading to soon, because we crush it there, and they're great to us.
All right. Dale, you got anything? Because I got one more I want to ask.
Oh, you better go ahead, man.
Okay, last one for me. So I know the CWHL is going on. Is there any chance, will we see like a crossover game, even exhibition game between the two leagues? Like, I'd love to, if the NWHL came up, I'd love to go to Toronto or something and see a game. But is there any chance of a crossover game happening?
What's funny is, I think it's honestly, sometimes I think our socials just razz each other. But one of our social media accounts tweeted something like, let's have our Isabel Cup champs play your Clarkson Cup champs.
Yes.
And yeah, I was losing my mind. I'm like, let's do it. And, we obviously don't quarterback those things via social media, but but I think that would be an awesome idea. We did it in the first year, right, with the outdoor game, which was spearheaded by the NHL, but nonetheless, we can do it ourselves, can't we? I think that you're dead on. I think that we should either have an out-of-market game in Canada or play each other, and I think that that'd be fun. I don't know, every single player in either league is going to say yes, 100%, we want that. It's obviously the powers that be on the top that, have either reasoning or, whatever it may be, strife, or, like I said, we don't always know the whole story. But when it comes to like getting together and playing hockey, we love the sport so much that there's no loss there. There's no love lost in playing each other and losing, or, for example, when we played each other and tied, we're happy to go up there. We're happy to play those games, and I think it would change the whole landscape of women's hockey.
Nice. And now Dale's a bit of a hockey historian, so I'm going to put him on the spot here. Dale, who's the Isabel Cup named for?
The Isabel.
Don't be Googling it.
No, I'm not. It's the Governor General's wife. It's something like that.
Lord Stanley of Preston's
Lord Stanley.
daughter.
Oh, daughter.
Yes.
Okay. I knew it had significance.
Almost.
Yeah. So anyway,
it's cool.
Yeah. Unless you had anything, Dale, I think we'll wrap it up there. Anya's got a game to go watch.
Yeah. No, it's always a pleasure. I wish I could bottle your enthusiasm and excitement. So it's always a pleasure talking to you or listening to you.
Thanks so much for having me. Listen, if I have a mouthpiece that I can start talking about hockey, I'll go for hours. So I love chatting.
Okay. Well, we do appreciate it very much. I know you've got a busy schedule, so thank you for taking the time with us, and go Connecticut Whale.
Yeah, go Whale.
Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.
And that ends the conversation we had with Anya. Thank you again, Anya, for being on. And now we'll just get right back to the conversation we had with Dale and Pete. Do you want to jump to the other trades, or want to jump to the Department of Player Safety before we get into the...
Are we still doing who's hot and who's not?
No,
we're done.
Over.
Oh,
Get a glove. Get a glove. Get in the game. We got to go. Okay. Player safety.
Hey, but just before we go, I just got you reminded. I don't know why that reminded me of, but hey, Pete, we met up with Jason Scope last week from Cincinnati, but in Columbus, and he said he did give a shout out to you, and he just said he loves it when Pete loses his mind. So there you go. You got a fan, Pete. Jason Scores.
Well, thank you very much. I'll try to lose my mind. Wait a minute. Feed me.
It's too late.
Yeah.
But let's jump
So
to there's only one thing for the dopes there, and that was the Miles Wood suspension from New Jersey. Got two games for boarding Nemesnikov.
This is boarding.
Yeah, they are beautiful.
Now I'm hooked. I got to look at them. That was vicious boarding.
It was ridiculous, right? And and they even said he didn't turn his back to him. He was never facing him.
If you want to go watch that explanation, listen to everything he says, and then just wait. And if you didn't know what the actual result was, you'd have been shocked.
Yeah, I was thinking, they're going 5-10 games here. Like, this is a big deal.
His whole description, right?
Yeah.
Since he turned from the top of the circle, he could clearly see his numbers. He, at the last minute, even engaged harder, and he
jumped
actually
into
jumped
his back.
He jumped. There was no way the player, the defenseless player, had no anticipation he was even there. Completely blindsided. It just went on and on and on and on. And for that reason,
2 games.
This is boarding, and he has been suspended 2 games, $10,000.
And then not only that, though, when Schuster comes in, and Schuster didn't drop his gloves, but this is like Biz Nasty was saying in that play earlier this year, and I'm trying to remember who it was who filled in the Colorado player, sucker punched him, and got a game or 2 for that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, he should have got 2
for that.
Yeah, just for that alone. He filled him in. He broke, I don't know if he broke his nose, but he was just bleeding all over the place. And I'm like that's, oh man, how that's not 5 minimum, I think 10 games, because he just leapt at him. I mean, that's just an easy one for the Department of Player Safety to get. Okay, hey Miles, because Miles, who the hell's Miles Wood? He's nobody, right? He's this guy who's gotten there by playing on the edge. This is your opportunity to calibrate Miles Wood to what's acceptable in the NHL, and they just told him, yeah, keep doing it, because we'll throw a couple of games at you, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah, this is first timer. Anyway,
problem with this is that they look at it, whether they believe it or not, whether we believe it or not. He didn't get hurt. He didn't get hurt long term. So they put that into the equation. Whether
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That should be a strategy. If you're at home. And you tell any of your guys, if we're at home and something like that happens, you lay on the ice and we will get the stretcher.
Seriously.
Every time.
Yeah. Oh, I would totally. And
we'll just turn it into soccer.
It's ridiculous. But then in the game, the 2 refs on the ice saw that and gave him 2 for boarding, 2 minutes for that hit for boarding, and 2 for roughing, for filling Schuster in and driving his visor into his nose so he was just bleeding profusely. 2 for roughing. What is wrong with people?
We've said that before. We said it last week, the week before, and the week before that.
Fucking joke.
All right, the dopes.
All right, they're suitably named dopes. Okay, so back to the trades. We've got we've done.
Carlson got traded?
Not yet, but we're watching closely. Pete, you're on that, right? If anything breaks in the Carlson news, you tell us. But kind of a more minor one, we had Grabner from the Rangers going to New Jersey, which is really interesting, mainly just because they got the Rangers and Devils, first time they've ever made a trade together, which is pretty interesting. But Michael Grabner goes to New Jersey. Yegor Rykov goes to the Rangers. We all know him.
Bless you.
Yeah, and 2018 second-round pick. So actually, again, the Rangers are just stocking up right now on draft picks. And you know what? For the Devils, that's a good move, right? They picked up a skilled player. They're kind of surprisingly in a run in the playoffs, and they thought, hey, let's bolster ourselves going in. So good move all around, I thought.
Yeah.
No one's getting too excited about it. All right.
Oh, we're waiting for Carlson.
Yeah.
Go.
The bigger one, which yesterday, and we need
is a big one.
You might need a PhD in trades to figure this out. But we had a 3-way trade yesterday, and this was fascinating, especially because it initially got rejected by the league. But I'll go over it. So ultimately, Derek Brassard goes to Pittsburgh from Ottawa, but it was a circuitous route. through Vegas, and the trade is Vincent Dunn from Ottawa, which is just an AHL player, a third-round pick from Ottawa, Tobias Lindbergh from the Vegas Golden Knights, and Derek Brassard. But Vegas is retaining $2 million of his $5 million salary. To Ottawa goes Ian Cole from Pittsburgh. Philip Gustafson, goaltending prospect, top goaltender World Juniors this year, goes to from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's 2018 first-round pick and 2019 third-round pick go to Ottawa, so they're loading up for future. And to Vegas goes Ryan Reeves from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's 2018 fourth-round pick, and again, as I said, Vegas retains 40% of Brassard's salary. What the hell?
Are trades going to become more complicated, or are they going to have to make them less complicated?
Oh, they're going to get more, because with this one, and what was the other trade this year where Ottawa to Nashville, and who was the third team in that one? With in the what's his name? Tourist. The Tourist deal went from Tourist. Who was the third team in that? Ah, shit, I forget. Anyway, yeah, I think with the salary cap stuff, teams are getting creative and how they're going to free up. Because what Pittsburgh tried to do here is Ryan Reeves wasn't in the trade originally. And then the league obviously said, wait a second, you're just trading cap space and you can't do that. Mm-hmm. That's not allowed under the CBA. And they've because I think they threw a fourth-round pick to Vegas, and they're going, no, you can't trade. They just said there's no way that's worth Derek Brassard. So they had to throw in Ryan Reeves to allow the league to approve it, which is all very interesting. But yes, to answer your question, I think you're going to see a lot more of this style of trade where 3, maybe even 4. I heard some rumors that there was like a fourth team involved in this when they were trying to make it happen.
I've already cracked a beer because I'm lost.
Just now?
Don't count. Don't judge.
No. Who am I? But anyway, I mean, if you look at it, obviously, and all the scuttlebutt is that the scuttlebutt on Scuttlepuck is that Carlson's moving, right, and that's heating up, and so they clearly, if that's going to happen,
Mackenzie said no. Mackenzie said there's more reasons to think he's not.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, keep going. I don't want to interrupt.
So they're just drumming up.
Bob McKenzie, come on.
They're just drumming up interest
Don't
for
pop
tomorrow.
That balloon. Let's go
for the TSN show. Yeah, they're just trying to drum up interest for the show tomorrow, which is distinctly possible. But that makes sense. But they are looking to move him. So Ottawa's clearly doing a rebuild. And they're not talking about a minor reset. Wait a
minute.
What?
Did they send out a letter? Their fans.
They did. He did. Not like the Rangers, but he said something very similar. Melnick came out and said, we're going to be moving some players, and we're looking to the future to get younger. Almost exactly the same as the Rangers. So, yeah. So they've got right now, the Senators have 6 picks this year. They had given up. They had already traded their first 3 picks for this year's draft. And I think that goes back to the Bobby Ryan deal. It might have gone to the Duchesne deal. I can't remember which one. So they're looking to recoup those. They have 7 for next year, and that was the third rounder from Pittsburgh replaces the one, their third rounder from next year that they had already traded. So I suspect we'll see that increasing substantially, and they're going to try and, I bet you by the end they'll have about 9-10 picks this year in the draft. I would think that'll be their strategy. Other players from Ottawa that people are talking about are Mike Hoffman, which would be a really good pickup for somebody. I've heard Zach Smith in the talks. I've heard his name come up. And who else did? Obviously Carlson and Johnny Oduya's name's up because he's a UFA.
What about any of the top prospects playing for the Belleville Senators?
I didn't hear their names come up at all.
Because there aren't any.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, hey, that Nick Paul's got a hat trick last night. He could make the squad. Yeah, that's the thing, when your top your NHL team sucks, your AHL team is almost always bad, right? It's a shame.
There's a strong correlation to that. Bottom two teams, Montreal's farm team and Ottawa's farm team.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at the Rangers rebuilding here, though. I was just checking out their draft picks, and they've got 6, 7, 8, 9 right now. They have 9 picks in this year's draft. They got 2 in the first, 2 in the second, and 2 in the third. They just gave up their 7th, but they're looking to do a proper rebuild, and this is fascinating stuff. I got to think, as a GM and scouts, when you see all those draft picks, they must just be licking their chops going, oh, yeah, this is going to be fun.
You can tell, people can tell who the brains of this operation is. I don't know how you keep a handle on all that.
I just keep it all up in my head, right? That or cat friendly. I don't know. It's just.
All right. What else?
The only thing on that Vegas one, part of me thinks that this is George McPhee giving a little bit of thanks to retain 40% of Brassard's salary. I got to think that was a, hey, thanks for giving us Fleury kind of deal, right? Because the Penguins didn't have to keep him and let him go in the expansion draft. They could have traded him and gotten value for him, but they did him a solid, but they did Vegas a solid. So I think Vegas did not get value in that deal, and I think part of that is, hey, thanks, guys, for Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah, I think when you said it was the first time these two teams had ever traded, it would be interesting to go back and see how many teams there's many teams that trade often, and it would be and you would correlation between general manager, or more interestingly, because general managers move around, how many general managers have traded with other general managers. I bet you every general manager has 5 other general managers that they deal with over half the time. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, and actually that's a great rat hole possibly in the future, Dale. That's a really good one. But yeah, I know I've with somebody who might be on the show in future weeks. I don't want to say too much, but a guy who's in the know, he said exactly that. He just said, you basically, each GM's got about 5 or 6 GMs they'll deal with regularly. They've got about 6 they'll deal with if the right thing comes up, but they don't usually talk. And then there's like the rest, or there's a bunch in the middle, and then there's 6.
They'll never.
There's 6 in the league.
Never, ever, ever.
Absolutely, will never deal with because they have some fight in the past, or they Yeah, exactly. Like Brian Burke and Kevin Lowe when they did the Dustin Penner offer sheet and they were going to go rent a barn and duke it out. Yeah. So that's really the trades, I think. And do you guys want to talk at all about the Karlsson moving? Like the story came out this week that Eugene Melnyk, and this was, I don't know if it's true, it was in a tweet and it was going around like furious. And basically the story was that Melnyk was pissed off between periods, came into the room, started chewing out the team, and said that Erik Karlsson still owed him $350 from an Uber ride in New York. And, that's how, I don't know how he fit that into why he was chastising the team. And Karlsson just got up and walked out of the room. And that's why, people are saying there's no doubt he's getting traded because he won't work for him. And I mean, if that's true, we're talking Harold Ballard type days in Ottawa.
Yep.
Yeah, no. Dane was telling me about that last night. It was because he used the corporate credit card for a $350 Uber.
Yeah, that's right.
Which kind of makes me kind of a little suspicious. I'm pretty sure that Karlsson has that in his pocket. I don't think he needs to use the company's card.
You think he's got that kind of walking around money?
Yeah, I think so.
But at the same time, if he had the company credit card for whatever reason, and you need, I could see him doing it, right? Like he might, whatever. It's $350. Who cares?
I think it's getting into that's peripheral. The fact I think there's probably some truth in that he walked into a room and he marked out Karlsson and Karlsson left. I'm guessing that is probably.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what he said, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
the particulars don't really matter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's good times in Ottawa. But you know what? Rebuilds can be fun too. I would be so mad if my team gave up Erik Karlsson. So,
well, my son's a big Ottawa Senators fan, and he walked in, saw the ticker say that that they're thinking about it, and he lost his freaking mind.
Oh yeah, you know what?
He goes, they do that, they're dead to me.
I don't think he's unique in that. I think there's going to be a lot. Well, I saw that there's someone in Ottawa, season ticket holder, has got a GoFundMe campaign to get a billboard for the city that says Melnick out. Hashtag Melnick out. So, and I guarantee they'll get the funding they need for it. So good for them. And you wonder that when stuff like that happens, like, what do the other owners, what does Gary Bettman do there? Like, I mean, they can't just go, you're done as an owner. Well, they could, I guess, theoretically, but they're not going to, right? And Melnick's
Bettman's looking
deep
at
pockets.
One thing. Bettman's looking at one thing. Are the Ottawa Senators making their financial obligations to the NHL? Yes. Good. We'll support them 100%.
Yeah,
Yep.
You're probably right. That's not as much fun though. But
No,
he
but
can't
that's
be
the way
happy about it either, though, right? Like they can't be happy that their fans are that pissed off at their owner and that he's basically destroyed. You know, they were doing well. I don't know. There's got to be some sort of feedback. Says, what the fuck are you doing, Melnick? He came in. He says, "Well, we might move the team." He couldn't have been happy about that.
Here's the deal. You got a guy he's skating. You know, they say that he's injured, still injured, and whatnot. So, not sure if that.
Are you talking about? Okay,
Carlson.
I thought you were talking Melnick. Is he healthy?
Oh, he's injured, all right.
No,
Above the
definitely
shoulders.
no. But if you're looking at it purely as a move for the betterment of Ottawa, I don't necessarily think it's a horrible thing. If the guy is injured and they know that he is and possibly will not get back to the stature that he was last year or the year before, then and other teams don't know that like completely. They know that he's having an off year. Wouldn't you try to get the most that you could get from him? You know, like, so if you're looking for 4 players or 6 players, whatever is going to get you that contract off plus rebuild, because we just stated that the Belleville Senators are depleted. Wouldn't you use that as a chip to try and rebuild your franchise?
Yeah.
You could, yeah. It's an approach, but he's it's the face of the franchise, right? Like
Well, it's kind of like Carey Price, right? If you think that Carey Price is at the pinnacle of his game, he's having an off year this year, would you jettison him before he starts making the $10 million or $12 million that he's owed, starting next year?
Well,
and try and get the haul.
Well, Pete, our team of the week is the Montreal Canadiens, so maybe we should just segue right into that, because that's a great discussion to have. I'm really interested in your thoughts on that, because $10.5 million is a lot to pay for your goaltender, and I don't know that it makes sense, but he's Carey Price, and he's having a bit of an off year, sure, but what are your thoughts there?
Well, here's my thoughts there, Mike and Dale. I'm thinking
I'm listening.
Well, I'm thinking that Carey Price, Max Pacioretty, definitely Thomas Plekanec, and we've already got rid of Mr. Jerabek, or Jerzabek, however you want to pronounce that. I think the Montreal Canadiens for years now have had a dearth of talent down on the farm. They've got a terrible coaching staff. Nobody's developed these guys and whatnot. So I'm thinking, if you want to rebuild, much like my argument there with Carlson was, if you've got a trade partner that you can get guys down the middle, you can get a piece on the back end, you can get the pieces that you might want to rebuild with, then you might want to look at this. I mean, Carey Price is an all-world goaltender, but with this Montreal Canadiens team, it's not going to happen. So why wouldn't you use that as a chip to try and bring back the pieces that you need? Max Pacioretty, 5 years of 30-plus goals, not happening this year, and going forward, is he a moody player? Who knows? Does he want to play in Montreal? I don't know. So if you looking at this for pieces to blow up your team and remake it, these guys might be the answer that you have if you find the right partner to do it. And maybe it's a 3-team deal or a 4-team deal or whatever you need to make it to put the pieces together, because this team's not going anywhere. The back end's horrendous. They've got pieces up front that could work together, but they haven't made it happen this year. In spits and starts, you see glimpses of a team that could do something, but over the long haul, this team looks flat, looks terrible. It's an It's abysmal.
So are you? So I'm clear.
Okay, so
you're
what are
coming
you
down
saying?
on the side of moving Carey Price. Do you think they should move Carey Price?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Wow, that's big. But you know what? I'm. You look at $10.5 million, right? And how cap space is so important. And you got Charlie Lindgren coming up, who is a good goaltender, at $750,000.
Yep.
So you look at the old Eugene Melnyk dollar or cap hit per point or whatever in goaltending. I don't know what it would be, but you look at value for your dollar. It's tough to justify $10.5 million on your goaltender, so that's interesting. Now, I think to move them, they'd have to eat some of that salary. They'd have to keep it, and that hurts going out to past 2024 to be paying someone to play for someone else. But he's 30, he's past his prime. That's. I think you're right. I think they probably should. And Rob Volman was on there earlier this year, and he was talking about that. He said they should have traded Carey Price before and got full value for him.
Yep.
Yeah. So move out Carey Price. The Habs are in a position to totally rebuild. They've clearly decided to tank this year. Like Carey Price going on the IR because of a concussion when he finished the game and stuff. I think that's a little dodgy. Shea Weber shut him down. So we're going to see the moves. It wouldn't shock me at all if in the next 3 weeks we heard of a Montreal Canadiens player getting suspended by the team for being late for practice. Oh, I don't know, someone like a Brendan Gallagher or a Jonathan Drouin, just so that they could keep
the second one's more likely
to keep some of the players out of the lineup. So they're going to go.
Pick Andrew Shaw. He's the whipping.
Well, he's already on the IR though. But yeah exactly. But they'll be doing odd things like the Leafs did when they were tanking, just to not necessarily have the best record come the end of the year because everybody's falling for Dahlin, right?
Oh, falling for Dahlin. Nice.
Oh yeah, buddy. And why wouldn't you?
You were working on that for a while, weren't you?
Oh my! I'd love to take credit for that, but that's been out there on the Twitter sphere for quite a while. But I did want to say though, like Pacioretty's an interesting guy. He's 29, so he's past his prime, but he's still a good player. He's having a way below career year. Some smart team out there is going to pick him up for relatively low. They're going to buy him low, which makes a ton of sense. And he can be a valuable player for 3 or 4 years, I think. Like, you're not going to pay him $6-7 million or anything. I think he's going to.
So do you get a Nash deal for him? Can you?
I don't know what his. I hate trying to figure out what players are worth when they go, oh, he got first and 3/3, and I'm like, I don't know, is that good? Might be. I find it so
I'm
hard.
sitting here going, this guy's track record is 30 goals a year.
He's got value, absolutely.
Goals a year. I mean, he's only he's the fourth over the last 5 years or 6 years. He's like fourth in the league in scoring.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's having an off year. It's not like. This has been a trend going down slowly. It looks to me, and the whole team's having an off year, but he was over 0.8 points per game for like 8 years, and he's down to 0.61. I think that's going to come back up. So this is a prime time for some smart team to go, you know what, Montreal, we'll just, he's past his prime, he's no good. We'll throw you this to take him off your hands because he's a big problem for you, and get him at a bargain. And I think he's still got a lot left to give. His shooting percentage is 8%, and his career 11%. I bet you it's going to go back.
Yeah, I believe it. So, I mean, that's why I'm sitting here going, this is a piece that I think Montreal could move to strengthen their team going forward.
I'd even say that'd be a great pickup for Edmonton, but I'd just be afraid what Chiarelli would offer. So I don't want to even suggest it.
Yeah.
Winnipeg,
really,
Winnipeg.
When you're talking about what people are worth, it's all relative to other people in the league, and it's escalating out of control. I just can't.
It's so hard to figure out.
So when you start to think of Price's salary, so what is he? Is he $10 million a year?
10.5. Yeah, starting next year.
So $10 million at 80 games a year, he makes $125,000 a year.
A game.
A game. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like, I mean, then you get into that perspective, and then I just start cracking beers because I can't even believe that anybody's worth that much.
That's so funny. But if we could just say, Pete, I did want to say, like, Jonathan Drouin was brought in, and foolishly, if they thought he was going to be an elite first line center or even winger for the team. Although I have to admit, I thought maybe I definitely thought he'd do better than he's doing. He's at 30 points, but I mean, Jeff Petrie has more goals than Jonathan Drouin this year. I mean, that's a huge disappointment.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely is a huge disappointment, and I don't know if he's been the catalyst of the team being bad this year. A lot of guys thought
that's putting a lot on his shoulders. Oh my god.
Well, I mean,
it's all your fault, Drouin.
Well, you put him with Pacioretty. The guys couldn't work together, couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, Galchenyuk looked good, and then he's looked bad, and he's all over the map. The guy Mete is a solid player moving forward. I like the guy.
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing. I think Noel Juleson will come in and be a good player for them going forward. I like the way that he played the other night. I actually think a guy like Joe Morrow might be a guy that they might want to keep around as their sixth, seventh defenseman moving forward. But the rest of that defensive core, besides Petrie, because I think Petrie without Weber has done great. So, yeah. I mean, he's on a good team, he's probably your third or fourth defenseman. On this team, he's your second, or he's definitely your second beside Weber when Weber comes back. And I don't know. It's the way I kind of look at this, is that the rest of the defensive core can be blown up and shipped out, and just go to a youth movement.
Now, do you think?
So where's their youth movement coming? We just watched the Laval Rocket last night in Belleville.
It's coming from a trade for Carey Price or for Pacioretty or anybody else.
Yeah. And it's interesting though. Like, so the people everyone talks about are Pacioretty and Galchenyuk, or even Drouin. But I'm going to suggest they should trade Gallagher because he's got the most value of all those players. He's the guy who's like he has playing well.
He has the qualities that every team wants.
He's not having an off year like the rest of them. All those other guys are having off years. That's the worst time to trade them. Like Drouin's he's a career 11% shooter. He's shooting 7%. Well, you don't sell low, right? But that's what they would be doing on any of those players other than Gallagher.
Trade Gallagher to Nashville. That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, watch him and PK. They'd be best friends.
I think their trade partner is actually with Minnesota. I'm just not sure what's going to happen there.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I think there's a Montreal Minnesota connection. I'm just not sure who's going to move there, but I wouldn't be surprised that tomorrow that somebody moves to Minnesota and hopefully Bergevin does better than he's been doing.
No, all that said, so the assumption is they're going to shift stuff out and look to the long term. But there's also the chance, like they've got 3 second-round picks this year. They've got 3 fifth-round picks, total of 8 picks. If they said, okay, you know what, we're not going to strip it right down. We're going to move some key pieces, bring in some significant people, and we're going to do a quick retool. So if they say to Carey Price, and I have it on good authority that Carey Price is going nowhere. Like they, even though it makes sense, they're not going to do it because I think they would riot in Montreal. So that said, they've got a lot of picks, good picks that they could move around and pick up. So if they moved out, say Pacioretty, and brought in, I don't know, a good player, whoever a good player is. Let's say they put a package. I'm not even going to say it because they will make a package for Edmonton for and I'll be mad about it. But say they made a pitch for Leon Draisaitl or something like that, right? Like some player that's really good, included draft picks, all that stuff. I don't know who the player is. They could retool pretty quickly with with all the picks they have. So
they could.
It's another option, right? I don't know. They're sellers. There's no question they're selling a bunch here. Tomorrow we'll see. I think they'll be very active, and it'll just be interesting to see. We won't know till after tomorrow what approach they're really taking, but it's all very interesting.
The other team to look forward to or look at is St. Louis for centers and Pacioretty.
Yeah. Which center do you think will move?
Well, actually, I think he's actually in the minors. I think this is it would either be a Robbie Fabry thing, or was actually a UFA this year. So I'm saying that not because I want it, just because I think that's something that Bergevin would do.
Yeah, and I think he's got some value. Yeah. But
so
who would you send out?
Or Pacioretty.
Oh, Patches, yeah.
Yeah. Oof. So I mean, there's a guy on their team who plays in the, I believe he plays for London. I'm not sure, but Thomas, he's a center. He played for Canada on the World Junior team, and he's a center. So we're looking for centers, and I think that's a possibility.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
For more.
So that's the Habs this year. Can we?
They suck.
Let's talk about the. Can we talk? We're gonna get online with Anya here some point, or maybe once we do the production here. We've already done that, but let's talk about the men's Olympics real quick. Canada winning bronze, but the Olympic athletes from Russia win gold in overtime over Germany. How beautiful would it have been for Germany to win that?
That would have been a Cinderella. That would have been a miracle on ice.
True miracle on ice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But good for Germany. I mean, I think that's a fantastic result for them, obviously, and I think it's good for the Olympic tournament and for the game for a team like Germany to get the silver.
Yeah, I think it is good for the Olympics in general, the men's hockey. It's amazing, right, how the NHL not being there has definitely leveled the playing field. So, I wish they had won. I really do.
Oh, I know. Especially because Russians, but
maybe they could get them on a doping charge yet. So maybe they'll sneak in.
It could. Oh man, wouldn't that be the worst though? You've robbed Germany. It could very well happen, but you've robbed Germany of that.
The moment.
The moment, 100%. But one thing that really struck me though, why I liked the format for the tournament, I liked that NHLers weren't there. You saw interviews after when Canada won bronze, and those players were genuinely ecstatic to win bronze, which is pretty cool. And you have Mason Raymond, who's he's played 546 games in the NHL. He's had a good, solid pro career. And Wojtek Wolski, same thing. He played over 400 games. They have NHL pensions, so you think, that's probably the most significant thing in their careers. They both. Like Wojtek Wolski is saying, he was emotional, almost in tears before the bronze medal game. He was so excited about it and how significant it was for him. Mason Raymond said that was the pinnacle of his career, winning bronze medal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I'd really like to hear how Chris Kelly compares that to the Stanley Cup. I have to think Stanley Cup's a bigger deal, but where does it fit for him, right? So I like it. I hope the NHL doesn't go back.
I don't think they will now. I mean, they've just proven that it can go on and provide interest without it. So
it's going to be
their
fascinating.
Leverage is gone
because NBC's pretty pissed off, I guess. So that relationship with the NHL is strained, but they still got. I think they've got another 10 years or 8 years to go in that deal. So it will be. It's not a done deal. What's going to happen next for sure? Because Bettman is everything in negotiation, right? So. But I got to think NBC is going to be putting a lot of pressure on. They give a lot of money to get the NHLers back in.
Yeah. Anyway, the ceremony when's the closing ceremony now?
I think it's been going on. I think we missed it perhaps, or it might be going on right now. But the opening and closing ceremonies just don't do it for me. I just don't care.
Actually, it just means to me it's over and it started and it's ending. So that's all I really care.
I guess it does mean that. Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
Okay. Actually, before we go to the rat hole, Dale, could we? I just wanted to say, people will have noticed that there wasn't a Health IQ ad at the beginning. So our contract with them is up. We are negotiating for another one, and I'm hoping to get one. But I'm gonna ask for a big favor from all our American listeners in particular. And I know I don't expect you to go buy life insurance. I think it'd be great if you did. I think if it works out for you, great. You save some money on Health IQ. But can you go to their minimum go to the website, go healthiq.com/SPH, because that can help me in my negotiation. And even better, if you just take the quiz. I don't, because that kind of data they look at, and that's going to help them decide to extend our contract. So I'm just asking a big favor of our listeners. If you don't, it's okay, but it would really help us a lot. It'll take you 5 minutes. Go to healthiq.com/SPH, take the quiz, and it might just get us another contract with them, and that would be awesome. It really doesn't, we don't make any real money on it. It just pays for our hosting services, so that would be it would be nice to keep that going. So just throw that out there for everybody. And with that, let's go down the rat hole with Dale.
So where we started today was to do with, because it's trade deadline. So one of the greatest trade fiascos in the history of the NHL, 1992, Lindros trade to ultimately Philadelphia, but he had a trade with the Quebec Nordiques thought they had a trade, or New York Rangers, thought they had a trade with the Quebec Nordiques, and it actually had to go to arbitration. A lawyer by the name of Bertuzzi had to decide that actually the trade was between the Quebec Nordiques and the Philadelphia Flyers.
So for people who may not know, maybe give a little background here. So Eric Lindros, first overall, generational talent.
Right, first overall pick. Quebec Nordiques select him. Said he wasn't going to go there. His lots of reasons why. Basically, he wasn't going to have the sponsorship opportunities in a French-speaking market that he would have in an English-speaking market, and he refused to report.
And his mom was Bonnie.
And his mom is Bonnie Lindros.
Might have been a factor.
Anyway, I got to get to the rat hole. It's going to take a while here.
Okay.
So anyway, the end result was that the trade call became a process to follow, so that two teams had to each call in independently and agree on what the trade was before the NHL would recognize it. The interesting part about that was there was a guy by the name of Sherry Basson. Sherwood Basson is his real name, and he was brought in 1993 to 1995. He was brought in as a consultant to the assistant general manager of the Quebec Nordiques. And he was, if you listen to 31 Thoughts, he was the guy who who identified the teams that they could trade for, and he actually kind of orchestrated the trade. And the trade was Hextall, Duchesne, not Matt Duchesne, another Duchesne, Forsberg.
Thanks for the clarification.
Well, just wanted to make sure it's a common name.
Matt Duchesne's been around.
And Mike Ricci, a first-round pick. And people forget this part, and this was one of the key parts, $15 million for Eric Lindros.
Cha-ching.
And so the other part that people might not connect the dots was that the Quebec Nordiques turned into the Colorado Avalanche, and due to this trade, I think you can debate it, but due to this trade, that the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup in 1996. Mm-hmm. So because of the Eric Lindros trade, and Philadelphia never did win the Stanley Cup, that it was because of him that team won the championship. Now, the interesting part about Sherry Basson is what do you think he did between the years of 1989 and 1993?
General manager of the Oshawa Generals.
No, he was the general manager of the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds.
Oh, it's close.
So the key part about this is that exact same scenario, Eric Lindros would not report to the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds in the OHL when they drafted him first overall because he didn't want to live in Northern Ontario, and it was a way he wouldn't have the same educational opportunities that he would have had if he stayed in the GTA.
Bonnie Lindros.
Yes, and the fact that Wayne Gretzky and Paul Coffey and Ron Francis were able to play in Sault Ste. Marie and turn out to be the people they are was irrelevant. It wasn't good enough for him. So anyway, It was Sherry Bassin who orchestrated the trade for Eric Lindros to the Oshawa Generals. Well, and he was the GM of the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. So it was almost the exact same scenario per se that he had in Quebec a few years later, which is kind of ironic that he would have been with the same person. So he traded Lindros for Mike Lenarduzzi, Mike Ducott, Jason Bonhomme, and Fred Goltz from Oshawa. They went to Sault Ste. Marie, and in Sault Ste. Marie they went to the Memorial Cup 3 consecutive years after the 1990 trade, and they won the Memorial Cup in 1993.
Wow.
So it was because of the trades of Sherry Bassin that the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds were able to achieve success.
So what you're saying, though, is that whoever gets Rasmus Dahlin this year should trade him for a boatload and will go on to win the Stanley Cup.
If he doesn't want to report, I think that's the key part of it. If he doesn't want to report, because then you're in a whole different bargaining position, right?
Wouldn't you be in worse? Because when the team go, well, he's not playing for you anyway. Like, wouldn't you be in better if he wanted to play for you? Well, you know.
Yeah, I guess you would, but yeah, you're right. But he was able to do this. So, but in the defense, Oshawa did win a Memorial Cup as well in that time frame.
That's true. Yeah.
With Eric Linder, so it kind of adds a little dimension to the story. But here's the real rat hole.
Oh wow.
Sherry Bassin was the general manager for the Oshawa Generals from 1976 to 89. So this is prior to moving to Sault Ste. Marie.
Mm-hmm.
He had an opportunity to draft a guy by the name of Wayne Gretzky in 1977, and he did not draft him because he knew that he was going to only be in the OHL for 1 year, and then he was going to move on to the WHA or whatever.
Yeah,
so
that made sense.
So
That's actually probably a smart move.
Yeah. So now we're moving ahead. So after Quebec and all this stuff, Sherry Bassin is better known for the Erie Otters of the OHL from 96 to 2015. Do you know who one of the people he drafted while he was there?
Connor McDavid?
Connor McDavid. So anyway, he did draft him, and he also won they won the league title, the Erie Otters, went to the Memorial Cup with just in 16-17, so last year, with DeBrincat and Radish were his two. So
generational talents just follow that guy. If I'm an NHL team, I get him on retainer.
Sure. So Sherry Bassin is very well known. He's got a very distinctive voice. It's very gravelly, and he really is responsible for building 3 junior hockey dynasties: the Generals, the Greyhounds, and the Otters. There's a whole bunch of other parts to him. He's a very interesting guy. He's got a bunch of degrees. Got in trouble.
Wasn't he in trouble? Oh, what was his trouble?
Well, he got sued. He went bankrupt with the Erie Otters, right? He was trying to move them to Hamilton, and the Oiler group with Cats were trying to buy him, and then he was sued by the Oilers. And,
right. Yeah. So didn't that play into the Bulls actually leaving Belleville and going to Hamilton? Like there was something in there.
Right. So he wanted to move the Erie Otters to Hamilton.
Right.
And then he never did. I'm not exactly sure the details, which left Hamilton open for the Bulls to move there.
Okay. Yeah, I knew there was some sort of, and the Oilers were all in there, but I never really got the full story on that. So that's.
So anyway, Sherry Bassin was involved. Yeah. He was more involved with the Eric Lindros trades in the NHL and the OHL than probably.
Didn't he win the World Juniors? Was he coach or general manager when they won the World Juniors the 1 year? I thought he was involved there.
He was involved the very first year when they sung and they didn't have the national anthem, so whatever that was, like 92 or sure.
Yeah, was that like North Dakota or no? Maybe Minnesota. I think it was Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, actually, he actually coached in North Dakota as well.
Jeez.
Anyway,
the stories that guy must have, eh?
Sherwood Bassin.
Yeah,
lives in Oshawa.
Like named to play in hockey. There's no two ways about it, eh? His middle name's 50-30.
And he's now, and actually for the 2017-18 season, he is the director of operations for the French River Rapids in the Northern Ontario Junior Hockey League.
No, that's a Canadian hockey name if there ever was one. The French River Rapids. I love it.
He has just been. I mean, he's won all kinds of accolades in the OHL and stuff, but can't leave hockey. Still, inducted into all kinds of different Hall of Fames. But he
Halls of Fame.
was the. What did I? Yeah. Geez, you're a producer and a
oh yeah,
so
I'm the grammar guy.
Anyway, he very interesting guy, but a very close tie-in to the Lindros and the understandings of the Lindros family.
Yeah. What do you think, Pete?
All right.
Well, fascinating.
It's quite a rat hole.
Absolutely.
All right. But all right. With that, I guess I don't know. You got anything, Pete?
Let me see.
Anything further? You got what's your schedule looking like in the future, Pete? Are you going to be back regular? Are you still working monthly here? What's going on?
Yeah, April.
Sometime in April
is the return.
Okay, you're okay. All right.
We're coming back for the playoffs. Playoffs? Yeah.
Playoffs. That's not that far away. It's hard to believe, but
2 months, baby. 2 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I guess.
But hey, let me interject here.
Please do.
The Belleville or the Quinte area has just launched a football team, a varsity football team called the Quinte Skyhawks, and I am their voice.
Oh, nice. So are they gonna do games on YouTube or something?
So we're working out the details. So I'm going to be the game broadcaster. So I'll be doing the play-by-play and doing their promotional work. So my son is trying out for them. There's tryouts started yesterday. They go today and 2 days next week. And Liam was one of the 10 fastest runners. So they had a 40-yard dash, and he did it in 5.1.
Nice.
5.1 seconds.
Wow. I used 40. To run that with it. They used to use a sundial when I ran those. So so if you're describing the game, describe their uniform colors. How do you describe them?
Well, that's a very good question. Well, there's a little bit of black, there's a little bit of white. Their away uniform is gray. They've got a kind of a lime green in it.
I think people see that before they see the white and the.
I know. I had to frame it there. So the lime green, and they've got a little bit of camo in there as well. They're tied to the Skyhawks, the military Skyhawks skydiving team.
Nice.
So that's why they have the name is actually owned by the Ministry of Defense. So they had to use it. So all the boys have to be on their best behavior when they're out and about, because they're not only representing Quinte, they're also representing D&D.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, I'm just looking at it online now. So they've kind of picked up on the old, on the Seattle Seahawks, I would say the colors, they're black in that kind of, we'll call it lime green. It's pretty bright. Yeah,
it's
cool.
Teal, right? So,
it's a good look, though. Nice. That's big stuff for Liam. He's got to be excited about that.
Very much so. And not only that, but Liam was also selected to represent Eastern Canada in the Canada Bowl, the OCG Canada Bowl, being played out in Chilliwack, BC in July.
Nice. I've been to Chilliwack.
So he's going to be there's for grade 10s and it's essentially grade 10 and 11, but 10, 11 and 12 players from Eastern Canada, ranging from Newfoundland to Manitoba, will be selected. So there's about approximately 60 kids, and they're heading out to Chilliwack, BC to play against Team West, which is comprised of essentially BC through Saskatchewan. And there's a heck of a lot of players out in the West, not as much in the East. But Liam is over the moon for being selected to have the chance to show his wares to colleges and universities in Canada and the United States.
Wow, that's exciting. Congratulations. That's a big deal, man.
He had nothing to do with it. Congratulate Liam.
Well, pass my congratulations along, Peter. No, that's big for a family.
Absolutely.
That's good stuff. All right, anything else, or do we wrap her up there, fellas? I'd like to, if we're wrapping it up, I'd just thank Anya Battaglino for being on the show today. It's always fascinating to talk to Anya. And if you have any questions, you got any takes on the stuff, shoot us an email, scuttlepuck@gmail.com. I'm at 13mike31. I guess you guys can do your Twitter handles.
At Dale Horde, original.
At Pete's VO.
Nice. And you can always check us out on at scuttlepuck.com. I've got links to the Miles Wood suspension and that ridiculous Jocelyn Lamoureux deke move to win the gold medal for the United States. So thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care.
Bye for now.
I'm a sailor pain, and I lost my leg. Climbing